Hello, friends. I'm recording this episode today from Srinagar. Come here for some work, but I didn't want to miss another day. I missed last Monday, anyways. So, today the topic is what are the things that a new CEO, somebody who is stepping into the CEO's role, maybe for the first time or maybe a multiple time, but in a new organization, what are the things that that person should be aware of, and what are the things that he should be doing? I think we all know that the CEO role is far more complex and demanding than one would imagine. And this I speak from personal experience. It is not just the glamour and the fun that one associates with CEO, because that's the only stories you hear about. You don't hear about the things that a CEO goes through. Okay. And stepping into the CEO's role is challenging beyond what one would expect. Okay. And it is generally accompanied with the whole organization facing the challenge because they all, the CEO, of course, is in a transition mode, considering that he's stepping into a new role, either for the first time or again in a new organization. But even the entire organization goes through a transition because naturally the CEO is going to have some of his processes, some of his way of working, which he would like to establish. Okay. So while everybody is going through a transition, what is important to remember is that it is at the end of the day the CEO's performance that is going to drive the values, the culture, and the progress of the organization for every single stakeholder, whether it is a employee, whether it is a shareholder, whether it is the board, whether it is your customers and vendors, all business partners for that matter. So it is not an easy task of getting into the role of a CEO. And considering this, it is very important that the CEO gets into a good start. And that is very critical, not only for the CEO himself, but for the entire organization. As I said, the entire organization goes through a transition. Okay. And therefore, the first time CEO, it has to understand that what he's getting into is challenging, stressful, and definitely nothing like he has ever done before, even if he has been a CEO before in some organization. Okay. This makes it very important for the incumbent CEO, okay, to step into the role with the right mindset and understanding and planning. If he does not understand what he has to do in the right way and plan how he will do it, it's going to be it's going to be very difficult for him to succeed. Okay. So to all incumbent CEOs, I would say that please be aware that there is a learning curve involved, and that learning curve is steep. And trust me, even if you've been a CEO 3 times in 3 different organizations, you will still have a steep learning curve. And there are things that you will have to learn which you never knew. You might think you know it all, but trust me, you don't. Okay. So that is important to understand. And you will realize it soon enough. As soon as you start talking to people, as soon as you start interacting with people, you will realize soon enough that, okay, things are not what you thought they would be. Now, having considered and knowing that all these challenges come, the problem at the crux is going to be that people tend to judge everybody very quickly, especially when there's a new CEO coming in. There'll be people who will form an opinion as soon as they just meet you and shake your hand. Okay, and these opinions are very difficult to change. Okay, and that is a big challenge in itself, because if you want to change that first opinion, it's going to take a very, very long time. Okay, so that is why it is necessary that an incumbent CEO has to remember certain things and do things in the right way so that he does not get derailed from what he has in mind. As I just mentioned, no matter how long you have been a CEO or how much you know, you are really never ready. Okay, no matter how much experience you have or whatever it may be. So there are some things you need to remember, as I said. The first and foremost thing you need to remember, especially in the initial stages, is to set down that precedent and avoid time killers. Time killers come in many different ways. It can be people who will just keep on jabbering and they take a lot of time. It can be meetings. It can be reports that just keep coming onto your table and whatnot. You have to recognize that, okay, this activity is a time killer and avoid it. And at the same time, from day one, you need to figure out what are your priceless hours, your most valuable hours. And you have to plan your circle in such a way that during those priceless, those most valuable hours, you do deep work. And it you have to do those things that time which cannot be delegated or which cannot be outsourced. It has to be done by you. And those valuable hours are the best time to do it. When you're planning your schedule, when you're blocking your time blocking or whatever method that you use, we've talked about all this in time management, be sure to provide for your own time. As a CEO, your primary goal is to lead the company forward. You need to have a vision. You are not expected to be bogged down by day-to-day activities. So when scheduling your entire day or week or whatever it is that you are doing, make sure that you plan and block time for your own self. As a CEO, very often, and I have seen this umpteen number of times, people tend to become very egoistic. It's a killer. Trust me, you do that and you are in trouble. Practice humility. Okay? And it is very necessary because at the end of the day, the CEO has to have great teams. So create a learning culture and support all your teammates in whichever way you can for everything that they do. And as a CEO, recharge every day. You got to figure out how you are going to recharge yourself. Okay, it may be by just sitting and having a coffee with your teammates and discussing things not about any project or anything, but in general, what can be done for the company. There are different ways of recharging. You got to figure out where, well, I wouldn't call it poison, but whatever way you think it works best for you. And whenever you take a decision, make sure that you believe in it. You have to believe in what you decide, and you have to inspire others to believe it and to do that so that you are successful in whatever you have planned. And trust me, I'm saying this not because I am a consultant or a coach, but get a coach. For that initial period, 2, 3, 4 months, depending on what pace you're working and what is the kind of profile you're getting into, get a coach. You will not be able to handle everything on your own. When you get into the job, begin right. And the first thing you need to do is to focus and prioritize correctly. There'll be so many things that will be open in front of you. You need to focus and prioritize correctly, and after due consideration of various scenarios that exist within the organization. You have to understand that your role is different. Okay, no matter where you come from. The responsibilities are different. Your CEO responsibilities from one job to another as a CEO are not going to be the same. So your responsibilities are different. And the expectations are sky high. They are daunting, so to say. Okay. So understand the priorities, determine your priorities. They don't have to be the priorities that have been set by your predecessor. If at all there was a CEO, if not, you decide on the thing. It doesn't have to be the priorities of whoever was heading the organization earlier. Okay, talk to people, both within the organization as well as outside, but more within the organization to understand the existing priorities. There's nobody who's going to tell you about it. That will give you an understanding of the organization so that you can start planning how you are going to do better. Okay, it will tell you about the organization's priorities. It will tell you about those people who are there in the organization. What are their regrets? What are the things that they are missing? Okay, when they onboarded, what was this thing? Because when you onboard, you need to correct those things. Okay, and keep in mind all of this information that you collect when you are setting up your plan. Okay, now when you start, when you are into the job, I think the first step that you need to take is to meet with, assess, and determine the gaps in the senior leadership, because they are the ones who are going to go down to your other teams and get them to perform. So assess them, analyze what they are capable of, determine the gaps that are there in the senior leadership of the organization. And after this analysis is done, you need to change, you need to train, or you need to add people as required. It's not that the same team will do the work that you want done because you have a different game plan from what the company was doing. And that's probably why you've been brought in. Okay. After having done this, the second step that you have to do is to review and understand the existing company strategy and goals. Are they something that really needs to be taken forward? Do they need to be changed drastically? Do they need just a little bit of tweaking? You have to decide all this. And after deciding all this, after analyzing and understanding all this, you design your own strategy and your own goals so that you are going to now guide the company as per your vision. After having done this, these are the two most critical things. Then 3, 4, 5, 6 steps are all necessary, but they're not critical to that extent. Understand the company culture, because you don't try changing the culture straight away. You got to figure out whether you need to change it or not. Check whether the company's overall performance was in sync with and as per the goals that the company had set before you joined. Then you will know whether the company is making proportionate progress or not and what to expect with your strategy and goals. Okay. Find out how the board engages with the company. Are they just board meeting people who will come give advice and go away? Are they hands-on? Are they involved in daily activities? Figure out at what level they operate, because you are not going to change the board's viewpoint, or you're not going to change the board at any time soon. Okay. And very important that you engage with and create relationships with your team. That is of critical importance. But we know you have to do all this, but take your time. Don't rush into it. Take your time, study, analyze the environment, study, as I said, the senior leaders and everybody, and then decide on your course of action. And when you are adding people to the team or changing people, be sure that you get the right people in place. Take your time. It doesn't matter if it takes 5 months, 6 months, 10 months. Take your time, but find the right people. Employing a wrong person and putting him in place is going to drastically derail your entire plan and schedule that you have planned for the organization. Okay? And remember one thing, even if you have the right people in place, they're not going to start performing and delivering straight away. They are also going to take time to get accustomed to the organization, to the culture, to the way things work, to meeting and knowing the teams and various other things that you do when you step into a role. So you have to give them time. Don't say, okay, I've got the whole team ready today, from tomorrow I deliver. That's not going to happen. Okay, that's like living in a fool's paradise. Okay, and be prepared for a lot of surprises. You will get cultural shocks. You will get surprises at the state of the business compared to what you've been told when you were being recruited. Okay. You will be surprised at the quality and the commitment of the employees there. And more often than not, I have seen that this surprise is always a very pleasant one. Okay. Be ready for interactions that are not very pleasing, especially when it comes to the board, because the board tends to want immediate results, okay, which is not going to happen. And all of this, the emotional baggage and the performance stress, is going to be a lot of weight that you will have to carry and shoulder while you are settling in. So don't ever forget that. Okay. If you have been patient, focused, and attentive when you have been doing all of these things, okay, then the surprises will be minimal, because you know from conversations what has been happening. And do not expect the worst. As I said, there will be plenty of nice surprises for you coming along. And one thing is definite: if you have been promoted from within the organization, all of this becomes much easier. You know the people before, you know their strengths and weaknesses from before, you know how the organization is operating from before. So all of these things make life easier. But trust me, it's not going to be a joyride. Even then, you're going to have challenges. Okay. And from the beginning, adopt the right leadership style. How assertive do you want to be? Determine the degree of assertiveness that you want. How transparent do you want to be? Decide that from the beginning, and all your communication should be based on that. And you need to have the right mindset so that you, your team, your colleagues, everybody succeeds and does the right thing. So starting the new role of a CEO is stressful, undoubtedly. But done right, it can be one that is a little less stressful. It's not going to be stress-free at all under any circumstances. But you will be able to fit in more easily if you do things the right way. Remember all these pointers. New CEOs, please remember all of this. It's going to make or break your career in that organization as the CEO. And if you remember these pointers, you will succeed. And you will succeed at a little slower rate. As I said, you need to slow down. Okay. But the fruits and benefits that you get of being a great CEO are well worth all the effort that you will be required to put in. Hope this is interesting for all of you guys. Have a great evening. Enjoy the talk. I know some of you are going to listen to it again. I really hope. And please, please come back with your comments. I loved the comments on my last, no, not the last, the one before that. And I am going to address them sooner or later. Thank you. Have a great evening and a great weekend.